I'd like to call the May 12th Transportation Committee meeting to order. Let it be known that all members are present. Councilman Kluart will lead us in prayer following the pledge.
Please stand. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for being blessed that we live in America. Lord, we want to send out our prayers. We've lost 2 youth on the water within a week here in Ascension Parish. And our prayers go out to the Hodges family and to the little girl. Lord, let's take care of everyone. The weather's beautiful. The water's beautiful. Let's all be careful. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda, anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with Ms. Liz. Members, I would like to move agenda item number 9 to number 4. I'll need a motion.
Make the motion.
Motion by Councilman Kluart, second by Councilman Lambert. We'll also need a roll call vote.
Councilman Kluart?
Yes.
Councilman Joseph?
Yes.
Councilman Dempsey Lambert?
Yes.
Councilman Todd Lambert?
Yes.
And Councilman Chris Lohr?
Yes.
That being said,
Motion passed.
okay, the land acquisition right away, Miss Jackie, you want to take that, or Lindsay?
I'm gonna let Lindsay
Okay.
speak on this one.
Committee members, the current ordinance that we have on the books ratified all past drainage and road property acquisitions, and authorized the parish to purchase land acquisitions for road projects only. This ordinance will allow administration to move forward with drainage, utility, and road projects. And we actually wanted to bring all acquisitions at $50,000 or more to you all for approval, even though in the past we didn't have to do that for road projects.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Kluart. Discussion? None. Motion passed. Move into the presentation for the possible extension of Highway 44 into Livingston. BKI, police come up. We have a PowerPoint on this.
Good evening. My name is Bruce Badon. I'm Executive Vice President with the firm of Burke Klein Peter. We're here tonight to provide you with an overview and a brief presentation on a project concept that holds tremendous potential for both Ascension Parish and Livingston Parish. It addresses a need from a transportation point of view that has been somewhat overdue perhaps, and certainly is timely given the growth of both parishes. I'd like to turn the presentation over at this time to the head of our Transportation Planning Division, Mr. Paul Waithouse, who will lead you through some of the recommendations that we're suggesting as to the process and the process to go through to go from an idea to a real project here. So let me turn that over to Mr. Waithouse. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. I think I've spoken with most of you about this project at one time or another. We've been talking about the problems for quite a while, and we all know that traffic congestion is increasing. This project would seek to provide what is lacking currently on the east bank of Ascension Parish, and that is a multi-lane north-south roadway that would connect the industries and the Sunshine Bridge along the Mississippi River with the residential areas in the north. What you'll notice is a broad corridor that we are suggesting being looked at, with Highway 44 roughly being the centerpiece of that corridor. And again, what we see is that we have a lot of good east-west capacity in the form of multi-lane roadways, high-speed roadways. What we have in a north-south direction is essentially the old rural DOTD roadway system, two-lane roads that zigzag, they're narrow, they're not the modern standard. We are not proposing any single corridor be looked at, and we'll get into that a little bit when we talk about process. We're looking at a broad area that would connect the riverfront with the area in Livingston Parish north of 190. The project concept here is to follow the DOTD implementation process, the first step being the Stage 0 feasibility study, and it is just that. Figure out which potential alternatives are reasonable and feasible. In Phase 1, we document what is out there, and we would involve DOTD and start that process, because in fact this will not be a local roadway, whether we expand an existing road and or build some form of a new roadway. One thing that you should consider as you look at this, the photos here, we are filling up very rapidly in Ascension Parish with suburban development and rural development. The longer that we talk about it, the more difficult this will become. It's a fairly recent aerial photo, shows the southern part of the project area, which is centered here in Ascension Parish. And again, you can see the footprint, even at this scale, is starting to fill out rapidly. This is the northern part of the broad corridor, which is mainly centered in Livingston Parish, and again, they too are filling up rapidly. The DOTD project development process, and this is an overview of it, going from the Stage 0 feasibility study, which is all the way at the top, down to operation of a roadway, has several steps. I'm not going to belabor all of those steps right now because we'll talk about the Stage 0 feasibility process. What I would call to your attention and to everyone's attention is how long each of those steps takes. And that again is an important consideration, because it's going to get more difficult to go through this process as time advances. The Stage 0 process basically has 5 big steps, and we're going to be talking about the ingredients that go through that. We are suggesting that Ascension Parish consider jump-starting that process, involving DOTD and other agencies as we go along. We've divided it into 2 phases, with Ascension Parish taking the lead on Phase 1, and then having the other agencies, mainly DOTD, Capital Region Planning Commission, etc., move into the process in Phase 2. We need to provide GIS mapping and aerial photography, because what we want to do is document the man-made and natural environmental conditions out there. We want to look at the demographic trends, and we need to do some comprehensive traffic counts in the area. Currently, we only have very limited average daily traffic. This is important because we can't really prove need, nor can we prove benefit. What is driving this? I think we all understand it. This just summarizes what is happening in the area, and as you can see, Louisiana as a whole over the last 27 years has been relatively stable. Baton Rouge Parish has grown by 18%, but if you look at the 2 parishes, Ascension and Livingston, not only do they have a much higher proportionate growth rate, virtually 100% in 27 years, but you actually have a higher absolute growth rate than does Baton Rouge Parish. What we want to do in this as a step is overtly involve other entities, not just Ascension Parish, but Livingston Parish. We want to involve the incorporated cities, Sorrento, Gonzales. We want to involve Capital Regional Planning, DOTD, and other key state and federal agencies, as well as local community groups. And we want that broad base in order to move towards something that has a good bit of support and consensus. We also, in phase one, want to document the future. In other words, project the population, land development, and traffic. It's important that this effort be coordinated with, for example, a comprehensive planning effort that you're about to undertake, any zoning ordinance changes, etc. One of the things that is important in developing this is to come up with a defensible statement of purpose and need. This is just a graph that shows all the different areas that we use in order to support a roadway and get it through the permitting process. We would suggest traffic as being the obvious and most supportable among many choices. Also in phase one, we would close out by looking at several general alignments, existing roadways, widening them, and/or potential new alignments. A critical element is going to be crossing the river. I think we all recognize this. Want to summarize the construction requirements and come up with a general cost estimate, a range for each of these alternatives, so that everyone, not only Ascension Parish, but those other agencies, knows what we're looking at, what the requirements are, and what some of the potential funding options are. Finally, I think we need to, at that point, show this to the public, get input from residents of Ascension and Livingston Parish. We would end up with a summary report, and also at that point we would know better what the issues are and what it would take to bring this project to completion and reality. So we would scope that, and we would look at funding and develop a process to finish it out. The next step would be to overtly transition the process and the project to DOTD, because again, it would be a state road. It would not be a parish road. You would be involved in it certainly, but we'd want to transition that over. We'd look at all the future conditions, develop those in greater detail, engineering, construction costs. An important thing in this is construction period traffic management. That's something that's included in that. And again, there would be continued public and stakeholder involvement. The conclusion would be a stage 0 feasibility report, and we just show the cover of the DOTD manual. And by the way, this is available online. If anybody wants to look at the process, I encourage you to do so. Go on DOTD's website. It would be the stage 0 feasibility report to their standards, an EA or EIS scoping, and an implementation strategy. And again, that's that second phase. And with that, if there are any questions, comments, be happy to entertain them.
Okay. Any discussion from the members? Councilman Todd Lambert?
Yeah, I guess first thing we need to look at is the cost. I know down the road you're going to have a cost for the project, but what is the cost for this study that we're looking at right in front of us?
I think it would be in the range of $225,000 to $250,000, and that depends on how much information is available from Ascension Parish in terms of the GIS elements that we could use as a basis for the analysis. The corridor is 26 miles long approximately, and about 5 or so miles wide. And we purposely cast a wide net so that we don't prejudice ourselves in the project development process.
And is there any cost sharing with Livingston Parish, since they're going to be benefited big by it?
At this point, we have not had any discussions with them that indicate that they have any money to bring to the table for phase 1. And I think that's one of the front end things that we would need to do together.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Kluwer?
Yeah, like Todd said, on Livingston Parish, Livingston Parish been in some of the conversations with you on that, their council, their representatives?
Yes, there's been
What you got, Bruce?
discussions with the parish president in Livingston, a lot of interest in the project, a lot of interest in what it could do for both parishes. And so they're well aware of this right now, and they have been in conversations with President Grimmer.
Yeah, I just, and the reason being is, I know from the helicopter point of view in the air, there's really some real good routes to connect the I-12 down south here through Livingston.
There's a number of opportunities to connect into existing interchanges on I-12, and those would have to be explored as to the pros and cons of which direction would be best, or whether a new interchange might work better. There's always that possibility.
Do y'all have any upfront insight over some possible funding mechanisms there?
Well, of course, we've also had quite a few discussions with the state delegation as to any state support. I think that is the primary route we were looking toward to move into the Phase 2 aspects, which will be a little bit larger. This is a very major concept, very major project. When you talk about 26 miles of roadway and potentially some of it through new area. So we will have to be looking toward the state delegation to provide that funding to go into Phase 2. And beyond, of course, into construction, engineering construction.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Lowell?
I will say, sure, this is just preliminary, and a lot of questions that need to be answered, and a lot of issues need to be worked out. But I will say, in terms of the concept of it, I am supportive right now in theory of the concept, because I've always thought it was smarter to have more pipes. I mean, you can build the pipes fatter, but having more pipes distributes the load. So whether it's internet traffic or regular traffic, that's just a good principle to operate on. So I think we should definitely look into this further and see if this does help us with our transportation needs.
Councilman Joseph?
Yes, sir. My question is, I mean, I know we have stages on this, but what is a time frame we talking about? A 10-year plan, basically, to out?
The actual Stage 0 does not take that long. I mean, how long would you say?
What's your anticipation on 0?
Stage 0 to complete both phases would be 12 to 18 months.
With
Okay.
the initial Phase 1 probably in the 6 to 9 month
Right.
kind of time frame.
Okay. And
Councilman Lamb? You got you finished?
I'm just looking for a completion date of actually everything goes work.
Yes, this is probably a 5 to 10 year kind of project. But particularly given that you'll be going to some new areas perhaps, I haven't seen many projects even of lesser magnitude than this go below about 5 years. It takes that long to get through both the initial, what's called here, that in DOTD calls it Stage 0, but you also have to go then through the environmental clearance process. And that takes some additional time, and then of course you have a design and engineering process, and then the construction itself. So, and even all of those things would probably be done in stages themselves. Construction would not likely, once the decision is made as to where to go, how to go, and how long to go is going to be done in steps itself, very likely, as funding is able to be achieved for the whole project.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Lambert?
Yeah, Parish President, recommendation from the administration also, budgeted-wise, I don't know when y'all want to take place with this project, as far as the study, whether we have money in the budget for it now, or is that something down the road?
Basically, to answer your question, Mr. Joseph, I worked at DOTD for 6 years, so I know what these stages go through. If you had the money to do a project, if you started off at Stage 0 and had the funding available to do the project, generally it would be an 8-year project. project. So, but that being the case, you don't have any money here. So generally, my suggestion to you on this, being involved in a lot of this stuff, would be to ask for a federal appropriation to get this project off the ground, and then it would automatically go to DOTD, and that would get DOTD involved in the process immediately. The concept going from Highway 44 to I-12 is not a new concept. This was something that was studied in the 90s. I will tell you that as a toll road possibility. I still think it has merit as a toll road possibility, not the entire 26-mile corridor that you're looking at,
Just the
but
bridge.
the part from 44 to I-12 is a possibility. So that's another, I think, part of the process that you would look at in the study phase of it. And if you do maybe a joint a resolution with Livingston Parish, it may be easier to get that funding on the federal side to actually jumpstart this project. So that's my suggestion to you.
Councilman Kluwer?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, that this is not necessarily a new idea. But what I want to ask in you guys' opinion is, you know, we've been rolling around for about a year and a half now with that southern loop, Baton Rouge loop. Do you see, in your opinion, that this road would possibly negate the great urgency for that southern loop?
I think this corridor certainly solves one of the major problems that they're looking at in the loop. It is not. I want to emphasize that this concept here is not part of that loop project
Yes.
at all. It has nothing to do with it, but it certainly is a logical conclusion to reach that it solves one of the quadrants of that loop very well, perhaps the most important of those quadrants, and which could easily take the place of part of that loop. But it's not intended that this would go into any loop system.
Right.
It's purely to serve the two parish areas.
I would much rather be in favor of this, that where we're at least people of Ascension Parish can partner up with Livingston and be driving the train on this instead of part of a mass program in a 3-4 parish area.
Right, the kind of, if you will, the advantage of this is it doesn't drag in all the other issues of every possible parish and community that's involved in that loop project. Instead, you solve what is essentially a local problem with a local project, and not one that drags the entire region into it.
Thank you, sir.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with trying to get together with Livingston Parish and draft an ordinance, or a resolution, I'm sorry, to try to seek appropriations for this.
I'll second that with
In a minute.
discussion.
Sure.
Motion by Councilman Chris Law, second by Councilman Todd Lambert.
Maybe if we can also add that we get our administration to look forward to congressional help for some federal level dollars.
And we can also present this as an MPO item.
Yes, to the RPC.
So.
Okay. With that being said, everyone in favor?
Yes.
So, motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move into the road department monthly report. Ms. Jackie?
We've included for you our summaries for January, February, March, and April. In the month of April, we dug 25,308 feet of ditches, vacuumed 9,975 feet of culverts. We cut 137 miles of local road and 87 miles of state road. We sprayed 74 miles of local road and 51 miles of state road. And that concludes the report if anyone has any questions.
Any questions? Members? No, we'll move into road project status update report. Ms. Jackie?
For our Roddy Road Bridge replacement, that contract which council awarded last Thursday, we have the pre-construction meeting set for May 26th. Our right-of-way acquisition's at 85% of full completion. We expect to have all those ironed out before we start in 2 weeks. On the West Worthy Road widening, we still have those 6 parcels remaining to complete right-of-way acquisition. Those 6 have lots of issues with them, open successions, liens, that type of baggage, so those are taking a lot longer than we anticipated. For the Roddy Road widening, that right-of-way acquisition from 621 to 931 is approximately 45% complete. They're working on negotiations as well with the trailer park owner at Weber City and Roddy while he's in the process of starting a new trailer park. We wanted to work with him on that. For the Muir Road Bridge replacement, the structure is in place and crews are currently backfilling and working on head walls. We will have that open in time before we work on the Roddy Road bridges, so that's gone wonderfully, and I have to commend our crews. They've worked very hard to get that done, and drainage has helped us with that as well, so it's been a really good project. The 2004 intersection program, Roddy Road at 61, the right-of-way survey maps and the appraisals are 20% complete. And they've begun initial discussions with landowners. There's 1 residence there, and they've gotten really good feedback from them. We've are working on setting up the kickoff meeting with ABMB for the turn lanes, Airline at 621 and Airline at 929. That kickoff meeting's tentatively set for next week. For the intersection improvement at 932 and 933, that kickoff meeting with SJB is also tentatively set for next week. The 2007 road reconstruction program in-house is 100% complete at this time. The 2007 intersection widening project is on track to be finished June 30th. Elwyn Dewey and Van Broussard are 100% complete, and they're finishing up on Duplessis at this time. The last of the drainage work, they'll be widening those curves in the next few weeks. The Phase 2 project is set to open bids on May 27th. That is the Swamp Road turn lane at Perkins, the Henry Road turn lane at 73, and the Seabro turn lane at Bluff. On the state projects, LA 73 is still on track to be bid at the end of the year. They're on schedule. LA 42, we've had some meetings recently with environmental study group, and they are on track to finish the environmental study at the end of August. Financial standpoint is still the same, 10 million in place and needing approximately 35 million to finish. And the LA 431 turn lane at Gold Place, we had finished the stage 0, and I got a call last week that DOTD is finishing that state parish agreement. We should be getting that to you all for approval in June. Okay. And that concludes our road update. Do you have any questions?
Any discussion from Ms. Jackie? Parish President?
Just want to say that we are currently working on a road program for next year. We're going to do approximately $5 million worth of overlays and $6 million worth of widening projects. So Jack is getting that list together and checking it twice, and hopefully we can come to some conclusion soon and get that underway.
Thank you. All right, we'll go into number 7, discussion of placement of speed cushion on Bayou Terrace. Ms. Jackie?
I'm going to give a quick report just for everybody. Brief history. June 08, DPW did a speed study. In August 08, DPW was asked to present those findings and possibly bond funds to purchase the cushions. On October 14th, we presented the report to Transportation Committee, and we attached that in your packets if you need to see it. Although the cushions did not meet criteria, they weren't warranted, the discussions led us to a 5-cushion trial approval in October. The cushions were ordered, and the end of December came in. In January of this year, the potential locations were marked on Bayou Terrace for our crews to put them down. The Homeowners Association asked us to consider alternate locations, which we did. In February of this year, we brought those locations back to you all, this committee, for discussion, and continue to work on the placement using some national spacing criteria. But before the cushions were installed, many residents have voiced concern, which is why we're back here tonight. Based on the concerns and all the comments DPW has gotten, we are moving forward with spending bond money, going to approval for finance this Thursday, to widen the curves on Bayou Terrace and patch failing sections of asphalt. So on May 14th, we'll go to Finance Committee, and on May 21st, that goes to full council. Through our experience, DPW's experience with speed cushions, we want to focus on pavement maintenance. That's our highest priority. We agree speed control is important, but we are not recommending putting the speed cushions down. We're not recommending buying any more speed cushions. We have a limited budget and want to spend that money on pavement maintenance. And of all the comments we've gotten, we feel we need support from enforcement agencies on trespassing and parking issues, and a lot of the complaints we're getting are more than just speeding. And so we'd like to focus on pavement maintenance and not on cushion installation. And that's our recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, before you go to speakers, can I just comment?
Sure. Councilman Todd Lamb.
Yeah, Ms. Jackie, I think you're talking about doing some patchwork, and that would be the offsets from the Bayou Terrace Bond Fund bought the speed cushions that we have in the yard right now. And I think in turn, we would do the patchwork to offset the cost of it. So, you know, in your recommendation, that's where y'all coming from on that.
Exactly.
So I just want to make that note that we would not be losing the $10,000 that was purchased on these cushions.
That's right. The rest of their bond money, in addition to some, would go to their patching and those curves. The curves are the main money item. It's $40-something thousand to widen the curves to an adequate width to where two vehicles can safely pass, which is not the case right now.
Yeah. And I also, you know, on you talking about getting more enforcement out there, maybe at the end of this, after everybody speaks, I'd like to see a resolution here from this board sent to Sheriff Wiley, maybe to do a little bit beefing up patrol on Bayou Terrace to maybe control some of the speeding, which is a law. 35 miles per hour is a law. People need to, you know, abide by the law, and hopefully, you know, to keep it safe. I know there's a lot of people on the road, but I think we can enforce that. It is a law, and let's see if we can get Sheriff Wiley involved in it. So I think that's all I'll comment for right now, Mr. Chair.
With that being said, we have several speakers who want to speak on this item. Mr. Tom Killian.
Yes, my name is Tom Killeen, and I live at 14382 Bayou Terrace in the back Carter's Point filing. And myself and my wife Amy and my two driving age sons, we are opposed to the placement of speed bumps down Bayou Terrace. And I understand that you all have been presented a list of reasons or items or comments from Mr. Lejeune, and we certainly agree with each of those and wouldn't attempt to repeat them or, you know, belabor the point. Excuse me. I've lived on Bayou Terrace for 13 years. You know, we're a very social, neighborly subdivision. I'm no offense intended, but I don't think any of us want to be here for this particular reason. My wife and I like to watch you guys on TV, you know, instead of actually being here. But here we are, and we do feel like we'd like to have some resolution to this, and the comments that have come out already regarding enforcement mitigate half of what I had intended to say, so I'll leave that alone. The only other thing I'd add is that I had downloaded some information on rumble strips. And I know there are a couple of houses on Bayou Terrace about 2/3 of the way down that are somewhat close to the road, quite close to the road, because the backyards were sloped so much the houses just needed to be built there. And there is a concern. I don't think it holds true for the vast majority of the street, but it does for one section. And I don't think anybody in here, and maybe I shouldn't be speaking for anybody in here but myself, these rumble strips at a 4-inch rolls 4-inch by 50 feet long. They're relatively inexpensive, and they've proven to be very effective in alerting drivers to an upcoming caution zone. And I think that might be a viable solution. None of us wants anybody to get hurt out there. We drive out there every day. Our kids are learning. Most of our kids learned how to drive on Bayou Terrace before we turned them loose on Highway 22. And a couple of neighbors had their sons, kids that we remember this big, are now driving, including my two. And we try to instill in our kids the importance of not speeding on the road or anywhere else. And I tell my neighbors, if they see them, you come to me and we'll deal with it. And I think most of the parents feel that way. So anyway, I would just agree with everything I've heard before me being the first speaker, and I appreciate being here, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Mr. Larry Lejeune.
Yes, again, thank y'all for giving me an opportunity to speak. I have a couple of copies of the petitions. I'd like just to leave those, just for documentation. I wanted to touch on the fact that I don't really think the main reason we're here is whether the speed bumps are good or bad. I think that's a matter of opinion, and obviously there's opinions on both sides. I think the primary reason that we're here is because the group of people that initially came before the council presented themselves as representatives of all the homeowners on Bayou Terrace, and that's certainly not the case. They didn't have a majority approval and really didn't make anyone aware of what they were doing until after the project had already been approved and the speed bumps had been purchased. The petition I submitted represents over 100 signatures of residents on the road, and it represents 54% of the homes on Bayou Terrace. And also, to me, more importantly, from the placement or the proposed placement of the first speed bump, 67% of the people past that point have signed the petition. So over 2/3 that actually have to cross them don't want them. Everybody, and 100% of the people in Carter's Point have signed the petition, and we were never included in any discussion. Again, the facts that the council approved the project in 2008, the speed bump cushions were purchased, and even the Bayou Terrace homeowners were not notified until January of 2009. And that notification at their annual meeting was simply, we are installing speed bumps. It wasn't an open discussion of whether anybody wants them. It was simply informative. As Ms. Baumann noted earlier, and I'm sure y'all are already aware, it really doesn't meet the criteria set forth by Ascension Parish. One of the primary one is that in order to put in the cushions, the road must be a connector road in a residential area where cut-through traffic is to be discouraged. And Bayou Terrace is a dead-end road, so I mean it simply doesn't meet that. It also does not have the approval of the homeowners association or a petition of 75% of the property owners along the street. It had some representatives that wanted those and came forth, but certainly did not represent the majority of the homeowners. And then lastly, the claims themselves of the excessive speeding. I don't think anyone is going to argue that some people don't speed down the road, but the study that DPW conducted actually showed that 84% of the drivers were driving 40 miles an hour or less. Understand the speed limit's 35, but again, that doesn't get into the range of excessive dangerous speeding. Only 3% of the cars in the study, which was over 1,300 cars, 3% of those were driving over 45, and less than 1% were clocked at over 50. That was only 11 cars out of the over 1,300 were registered at over 50 miles an hour. So I think that information really just doesn't support what the board just stated as a really excessive speeding problem. And I mean, that's all documented fact. I know people stand by the road and they see cars go by and they think they're speeding. And sometimes they are, but that's just an opinion. You're standing there looking at a car go by and it probably appears to be speeding, especially when you're that close, when a lot of times it really probably isn't. It's just a perception. So, in summary, I mean, just given the fact that the homeowners were not really represented or informed, and the majority clearly oppose it by signatures on the petition, that I would request that the council cancel the project. And thank you for your time. And one more last thing. I'm a little surprised that the board really continues to push it when it's obvious that the majority of the people that they're elected to represent on the road, I mean, clearly don't want those speed bumps installed. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Tommy Mendoza.
Good afternoon. I live just about at the end of the street, and for the most part, I see these young kids that park on the side of the road to go swim in the river, you know, crossing through people's private property and everything. When they get back into their vehicles, I've seen several times, or many times, they get in there and they'll squeal their tires, and next thing you know, they pass in front of my house doing about 40, 45 miles an hour. And they don't have any intent on slowing down until they get to a certain point. Now, once they, I don't know how fast they're going when they pass this particular place, but I do see them speeding a pretty good bit. These young high school kids, you know, they want to have a good time, but that's not the way to do things. I just see it a lot, passing in front of my house, speeding pretty regularly. And it's a lot of times it's on the weekends when they have a lot of people out in their yards and a lot of kids playing around, that they are parking on the side of the road and not supposed to be there. So hopefully that you know, this problem will be solved, you know, with a little bit more patrol, and like Michelle said, could be done. And everything else has basically been said, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Patsy Austin.
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Patsy Austin. I've lived in Bayou Terrace for almost 13 years. And we, the residents of Bayou Terrace, voted several years ago to assess ourselves $3,000 per lot to pave our road. We did not vote to spend that money on speed cushions. And my biggest concern is that that money can be spent in so many better ways than to put speed cushions. The S-curve needs to be widened. There needs to be shoulders on the road. The turnaround for the buses at the end of the road should be improved. And I don't think speed, as was pointed out by Mr. Lejeune, is the problem. The problem on our street is the kids on four-wheelers and golf carts. There are 8-year-old kids on golf carts. There are 6 teenagers in a golf cart. There are adults with alcoholic beverages on golf carts. That's why everybody's worried about the speed. Golf carts and four-wheelers are not allowed on parish roads. So the only thing I wanted to ask you was just to make your decision based on what this money was originally intended for. It was not intended for speed cushions. Thank you.
Next, Bill Taylor.
Yes, sir. This young lady right here said everything I want to say.
Thank you.
Worried about these cars driving so fast? It ain't that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Cody Jones.
Thank you. My name is Cody Jones. I've been living on Bayou Terrace for over 15 years. I'm 20 years old. I've grown up there since it was gravel, and there's so many changes to the road that since I've lived there, I've approved of most of them. No problem at all. But I do have a really big issue with these speed cushions, or speed bumps as some people will call them, is that I'm an avid motorcyclist. I passed the Harley-Davidson Rider's Edge program, and the main thing they stress is safety. Safety, safety, safety. And from the standpoint that I'm understanding from flyers and information is that there will be gaps in these speed bumps to allow other cars to pass and motorcycles to pass in the middle of the street. Well, this presents a safety problem for myself, which puts me in either I have to go over these bumps or, as the flyer suggests, go in between them with my motorcycle, which puts me in the middle of the street into lanes that I don't need to be driving in and into other swerving back and forth into lanes. And that's pretty much a safety issue on my part, because I don't want to have to swerve in and out of traffic. If I have a car in front of me, yes, I will slow down and go over it. But if opposing traffic, oncoming traffic, regardless, I do not want to have to swerve in between these speed cushions or speed bumps, whatever is going to be proposed, installed. I don't have to do any of that. That is my main point on this, is safety on motorcycles, whatever. But thank you for your time, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next is Richard McCormick.
Between committee's recommendation and all that's been said about this, I can't add that.
Thanks, sir. Darren Coates.
Good afternoon. My name is Darren Coates. I have lived on that Bayou Terrace for about 10 or 11 years now. I have a 3-year-old. I know safety is a concern on the street. Like these gentlemen have said, I'm encouraging my 3-year-old to stay out of the street and play in the yard. Most all of us out there do have yards. And so with that being said, I do not support the speed cushions. Cody mentioned about driving around the speed cushions. I think that will be an issue. I think we'll wind up having people driving people's yards, trying to get around. These same people that are speeding are going to do what they can to avoid them. They're not going to slow down. They're going to run over them at 50 miles an hour or 40 miles an hour, whatever they're going. I think it'll be an issue at night. People carry stuff in their truck. They go over these things at night. You're going to hear whatever jingling around the back of the truck. So whoever has them in front of their house is going to wind up hearing this noise all night long. So I do not support them, and I would appreciate your vote not to as well.
Thanks. Ms. Catherine Delatte.
I don't really have anything to add other than I don't support them. And everybody's touched on pretty much all my.
Thank you, ma'am. Joseph Delatte.
I really don't have anything else to add.
Thank you. Walter Lundy.
Good evening. My name is Walter London. I'm president of the Homeowners Association. Just wanted to touch on a few points that haven't been made so far. I don't know how many of you are familiar with our street, but it is a little over 3 miles long, 18 feet wide, no shoulder, no walks, and the houses are very close to the road. Now, people have said so far that there's not a speeding problem or it's not as bad as what we think it is. That's not true. I've only lived on the street a couple of years, and I've witnessed 2 pedestrian near misses. One was a lady coming to my house, was almost run down. Another was 2 little girls on bicycles 2 doors down from me, were almost run down. Week before last, we had another near miss. A little girl was almost hit when she ran out in the street. Fortunately, the person that was driving down the street was driving very slow, and she wasn't hit. Had she been driving 50, 60 miles an hour like a lot of these people, it'd be a different ending to the story. Coincidentally, the parent of that little girl is one of the signees of the petition. Now, as far as the Homeowners Association, we consist of 308 lots on the street, 143 property owners. The petitions that you have do not match 54% of the property owners on the street. We represent the entire street from Highway 22 all the way almost to the end, except for 7 houses on the end of the street. and at the end of the street, the Jimmy Babin Event Complex. Those are the only properties that aren't in our association. Again, I've only been on the street a couple of years, and I've been on the board a couple of years. I can say, personally, the #1 complaint that I have gotten is speeders on the street and the danger on the street. When I first moved on the street, people told me about the swimming hole down at the end of the street. They kept saying, somebody's going to get killed, somebody's going to get killed. Somebody got killed. And I'm here to tell you, just from what I've seen, eventually there's going to be an accident on that street. Now, as far as the criteria for the speed cushions, I feel that we meet all of the criteria. We've worked with Miss Jackie for several months now. We were under the impression that we had the support of the DPW. The only criteria that could be argued is that we're not a connecting street. But in reality, that's put in there to cover non-local, non-residential traffic on a street. We do have that. We have the Jimmy Babin complex down at the end where they have the Rat Fest and events and stuff like that. We have kids barreling down the street to go swimming at the end. So we do have a lot of non-local, non-residential traffic traveling the full length of the street. Now, we have not come to this conclusion or this solution lightly. We've debated about this for 2 years and for many, many years before I got on the board. The residents have tried everything to slow down traffic on the street. They've tried working with the sheriff and getting the increased patrols. I've been told that we've been down this road many, many times. They say we'll do it, and they'll come out here 1 or 2 times, and it works for as long as that sheriff is sitting there and not 1 minute longer. We've tried putting these signs every 100 feet down the entire length of the road. People didn't like the signs, and of course it didn't slow down anybody either. People that speed aren't going to base signs like that. And the last thing, we've had residents actually go out and shout down speeders going down the road, and they've been threatened. We can't do that. I mean, you're risking your own life trying to do that. So again, we have not come to this lightly. We've tried every solution, and I know, the board means well, and the committee rather means well in saying we're going to pass a resolution asking the sheriff for more enforcement, and he'll probably do that for a week or 2. But again, we'll be right back here. People are going to continue to speed, and an accident is going to happen. I'm convinced of that. We don't pretend that we're going to beautify our street by adding speed cushions. That's not what this is about. If we didn't feel strongly that our kids are at risk and that our adults are at risk, we wouldn't be here. This has been a major pain to the board of this association. And again, if there was any other solution, or we thought we could overlook this problem and look the other way, we wouldn't be here. And that's about all I have to say. We meet the criteria. The minimum speed, the 85th percentile speed, is well over what the minimum criteria is. The length of the street, the traffic on the street meets the criteria. The straightness of the street. Granted, it's not technically a connecting street, but I challenge anyone to find a dead-end street anywhere in South Louisiana that's faster, longer, or busier than Bayou Terrace Drive. Again, if there's any other solution, I think we would have come up with it. But this is all that we feel that we can do, and we feel it's justified, and we feel it's a good solution to the problem that we've had. That's all I have.
Next speaker is Tammy. Then Vitra. Barada.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Viverata. I've lived on Bayou Terrace for 13 years now. I'm married. I have 3 children, ages 13, and I have a set of twins that are 4 years old. All in all, I love Bayou Terrace. It's great. It's a great family. I can sit here and think of at least 50 or so kids that live on our road that are smaller kids, you know, not all teenage kids. A lot of our homeowners own lots on both sides of the roads. Yeah, where our kids are supposed to stay in our yard, kids are kids. It could be someone coming over for the Mardi Gras parade and they're going to run out in the road. They could be chasing a ball or a dog or whatever. That's going to happen. Yeah, we want them to stay in our yard. We have a line in our driveway. My boys know you don't pass that line, but that's not to say it's not going to happen one day. I can tell you speeding has always been an issue on our road. I can remember ever since it's been blacktopped. Even when it was gravel, it was almost an issue. They'd try to cut off in the grass and that kind of thing, but it's always been an issue, and every year it gets worse. We have more homeowners, more visitors, more family, friends. They're coming with deliveries, sightseeing, and then the island. All the young, adult, little teenage kids want to go to the island. They're learning every summer. I can get in my car, go down Bayou Terrace. I can park, sometimes on private property, sometimes on homeowners' property. I can float across that river with my ice chest. I could spend the day there. I don't even have to have a boat, but I'm on the river. Come Saturday or Sunday, I invite everybody, come sit in my driveway. Give it a few weeks, because we just had a horrible tragedy. Right now, they're going to probably slack off a little bit. Within a couple of weeks, they'll be back out there, maybe even a little bit longer. But come Saturday and Sunday afternoon, you can sit in my driveway, and you can tell when they're leaving. They jump in them trucks, they hot riding. I've seen them come on the hood of a car, side by side, cutting up. One day, it's going to take one little flinch. He's going to end up in somebody's front yard. From my front door to the edge of the road is 43 feet. I measured it this morning. Our road is 18 foot wide. That's not a real big road to be doing all this kind of cutting up. They're not doing the speed limit. I don't even think they know what the speed limit is, much less respecting our speed limit. So I have an issue with that. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not just those young kids that are speeding. It is visitors on our road. It is homeowners on our road. It's not just the young ones. It's grown adults that are doing it. I've had somebody try to pass me on the road because I'm doing the speed limit. I can't tell you what was so hot fire important. I've had someone tell me the other day they got sideswiped. The bus driver, she's been called down because she can speed. You know, I mean, it's not just the young kids, it's everybody, or a lot of older people also. I really think that something needs to be done. I think the speed cushions will slow them down. It'll make them realize, oh wait, there is a speed limit on here. What is, you know, they're going to have to slow down if they're speeding, and then it's doing its job. I have heard people complaining about the life of their vehicle. It's the wear and the tear. My question to you is, how can you compare the life of a vehicle to the life of a child or an adult, anybody? You can't. There's no comparison as far as I'm concerned with that. I've also heard that someone told the association, tell them to keep their kids inside. How absurd is that? Keep your kids inside. Why? So you can speed down my road? So you don't have to go over a speed cushion? In the beginning, our speed limit, I think, was 25. They complained, they moved it to 35. 35 a lot of times is too fast on our road. I'll be point blank. I mean, with our roads being as narrow, people park on the sides a lot. There are some people that could care less. They will still fly by, not knowing what's going to pop out in front of that truck or that car. Other than that, it was my understanding, as with a lot of other homeowners, that the speed cushions were approved. They were bought, they were purchased, they were, you know, we're going to space them out, and we were really very happy about it. I know it was only 5, but at least it was going to be something to make these people slow down. So I'm just pleading that y'all will agree to put at least the 5 that y'all originally had agreed to do, and maybe then they'll realize it is not Bayou Terrace Speedway, it is Bayou Terrace Drive, and they need to slow down and do the speed limit. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Next, Pamela Lejeune.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name's Pam Lejeune, and I live on Bayou Terrace Drive in Carter's Point, and have for the last 11 years. I want to first state for everybody here, this is not an issue about neighbor versus neighbor. This is about the fact that this was started without the knowledge or support of the majority of the homeowners on the road. You've heard arguments that state that opposing the speed bumps is the same as lack of concern for children's safety. That is simply not true. There's not a person that lives on Bayou Terrace that will say that they don't care about kids. We all watch for kids. The fact of the matter is there's a lot of talk about speeding, but your own study, the DPW study, just doesn't support those claims. You know, like my husband said earlier, when you're standing still and you see a car go by, what you think, how fast you think it's going, and what it really is are two separate things. This was a study done over 48 hours, and it just doesn't prove that out. Also, while the board came to you and made this request on behalf of the Homeowners Association, they were not acting within their rights. They do not have the authority to initiate parish projects, particularly given the lack of support as evidenced by the petition, which represents 51% of the homes, not the lot owners, and the homeowners are really the ones that have a stake in this. I'll remind you again that this was shared with Bayou Terrace in January of 2009, a full 3 months after it was approved. At no time was Carter's Point informed, and we've yet to actually hear anything about it. We only got wind of it by talking to the neighbors. Really what I ask you is that you allow the majority to be heard and due process to occur and cancel this project. Thank you.
Any other discussion from committee members?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Todd Lambert.
First of all, I'd like to, commend the association that they thought they were doing right. They got complaints since they've been on the board for 5 or 6 years now about speeding, and they thought they were doing right by putting the cushions. But after, DPW looked at it, and at first it didn't meet the criteria, but being Bayou Terrace had a little bond money, we decided we was going to buy some, and Homeowners Association came to us with no opposition. Now, I was in favor that they had contacted everybody involved, but apparently not. But I commend Ms. Grounds and the board for trying to help, and I'm going to do everything I can do if I got to get with Jeff Wiley also to help. But I've always followed DPW's recommendations as they're doing the engineering and all the studies on it, and I'm going to have to go forward with their recommendation not to put them.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert.
Second.
Second by Councilman Oliver Joseph, following recommendations of the DPW.
Can we, Todd, Councilman Lambert, did you want to make a motion for that resolution to go to the sheriff as well?
Also, yes. I'll go ahead and finish this.
Any other discussion on this? None. Motion passed.
And Mr. Chairman, also, I'd like to make that resolution to send Sheriff Wiley to beef up the patrol and stay steady with it. And, if he has any concerns, definitely get back with me on it.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Lohr. Discussion. Councilman Kluwat.
Yes, Councilman Lambert, not to address any of the speakers, but I'll go ahead and address you. Would there be any talk about lowering the speed limit? I mean,
and that's a possibility. That's no problem, and I think most of the people out here probably don't have a problem with that.
I gotta agree with people. I got some of the same problems in some of the little streets around my place, and it's the fact that if you take a 35, lower it to 25, go down to 15. The fools that want to drive 50, they're not looking at that. They looked at it, but they're not going to follow it. But I would, if that would be a general consensus, at least the majority of the cars that pass over it would slow down more.
And that's that wouldn't be an issue. You bring it forward to the committee, put it on the agenda, and maybe the association and both associations can get together on that and bring it forth.
That's all I had.
Any other discussion on the motion and the also the amended motion for the sheriff? None. Motion passed. Number 8, Louisiana Highway Safety Grant Application. Ms. Collins.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Mr. Chairman, Highway. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, President Martinez, I'm here tonight just to inform you of a grant that we applied for, and it's ironic that we're talking about highway safety, safety issues. As you know, in the past, we've come before the committee and the council with programs that dealt with road safety. When Mr. Bob Turner was here, we were able to acquire a grant that increased the size and the reflectiveness of road signs, stop signs, directional. Actually street signs were larger so that you could accommodate some of the safety efforts with roadway. And so with this one, this is an additional one, working with Ms. Jackie and Clint on Louisiana Highway safety application, which deals with roadway departure. And this will be a striping project. As you depart off of the road, the stripes will help indicate the turning from one point to other. This is the first time we've actually applied for this because it's through the State Agency of Safety, Public Service. And so this is a new thing for them because they do mostly educational grants. So we asked them to consider this because we feel like this is an excellent partnership to show that these are things that can help you and help our roads and our residents. So we applied for this grant on May the 1st, and we're here to ask you, it did not require council approval prior to awarding the contract, but in our efforts to make sure we go through the committees and go forward, we are doing that
Motion
now.
by Councilman Kluwat, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any discussion? None, motion passed.
Thank you.
All right, approval of agreement with DOTD at Highway 73 with the sewer cost, Ms. Jackie?
This agreement is actually something that I and DOTD thought was done. This agreement basically is what the parish was prepared to pay for with the Highway 73 improvements. We are required to put up sewer monies. DOTD can't pay for sewer improvements. We have budgeted the $1.5 million estimated, and the additional cost that's in this agreement is a 50-50 share of the soil borings, which is actually nice on DOT's part because the soil borings are only required for our sewer installation design. So we recommend approval of this agreement.
Motion by Councilman Chris Lowell, second by Councilman Kluwat. Any other discussion? None, motion passed. Request to close Pearly Broussard Road connecting to Highway 73. Ms. Jackie?
This is also in conjunction with the Highway 73 project. I've attached a drawing which was originally sent to Kansas City Southern Railroad where we attempted to restrict left turn movements in and out of Pearly Broussard. For safety reasons, KCS and DOTD and myself agree that this connection is a very poor connection as far as safety is concerned with the railroad. It's also been brought to our attention that portion of the road is actually built in the Kansas City Southern right-of-way, which isn't technically allowed either. So we're recommending, because it's a very low volume road, we've talked to Councilman Pat Bell, he is in support of it, to move forward with dead-ending this connection. Most of the industry, there's a couple businesses that are on the post office road side, also access the service road. So just standing out there during the peak hour, there is no major volume coming in this road from 73. So we support DOTD and KCS with the road closure, and we recommend closing it.
Moved by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Randy Kluwat.
Discussion.
Discussion, Mr. Kluwat.
Do we feel this is good for safety?
Actually, I do. It's a big push now, access management across the country. Everybody wants more driveways, but the truth is, it is safer to have less. And being that it's so close to the railroad, when you widen 73 to 3 lanes, It is a very bad condition to have those left turners right on the railroad of a 3-lane. If they try to beat a train, and they have 3 lanes wide, we are in support of closing it.
Do we get and I don't know, I don't want to use the wrong term, but in our negotiations with the railroads on different crossing opportunities, ground level crossing opportunities, do we get some points with the railroad for closing this ground level crossing?
In my limited
you know, please correct me if I'm wrong in my verbiage, but that we get some gratuity, or at least that they look at that we're trying to work with those folks.
I understand the thought, and I appreciate it, but my limited dealings with the railroad is they have the ultimate authority, and they actually supersede DOTD. So as much as I'd love to say we won some brownie points, I think if they really wanted to hold me to it and cut it off, they probably could. They are really receptive in working with us on, there's a railroad crossing, Dutton Road is right past this.
Right.
Moving the gates to make that a safer crossing. Sure. But I don't know if it won us any brownie points.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
With that being said, any other discussion? Mr. Joe.
Ms. Jackie?
Yes, sir.
And have the community or those businesses in that area have been notified that this may happen, or have any communication with them?
That's something I've asked. Actually, Mr. Ronnie and I both talked to Pat Bell about leading. So I've personally not knocked on any doors. The one resident at the corner of Pearlie Broussard, there's one house, and it has a driveway on 73. That's going to remain. So that one residence is not affected. His driveway's on 73. He has both access. But I've not personally spoken to those.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Any other discussion? None. Motion passed. 12, Gulf Industry Pavement Marking, change order number 2 in the amount of $2,424.50. Jackie?
This change order is for additional stop bars and striping that was requested through a bunch of different areas, and we added to their contract to make things safer at the time.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert. Second by Councilman Oliver Joseph. Any discussion? Motion passed. 13, no parking signs at 17493 Summerfield North Road. Councilman Lambert.
Yeah, I got with DBW earlier in the week, a couple weeks back, and put it on the agenda. At this location, they have a power line close to it, and I think that's where they want the no parking signs. The homeowner is keeping up the road ditches for us and having trouble because there's a lot of parking taking place right there.
DPW has no objection to the installation.
Make that motion, Mr.
Motion by
Second.
Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Kluwat. Any other discussion? None. Motion passed. 14, road acceptance into the parish maintenance system. Jackie?
First is Pelican Point Subdivision, 13th filing, Part 3. Those roads include just Green Tree Avenue, 563 feet, and we recommend acceptance of that road.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert.
Second.
Second by Councilman Randy Kluwat. Discussion. None. Motion passed.
The second is Commerce Center subdivision. If you recall, last month this was deferred due to the lack of the sewer treatment plant being installed. In working with Lindsay and planning, it's been determined that the public bond covers roads and public improvements. So being that the sewer treatment plant is a private improvement, we can't legally hold the road acceptance for a private improvement. However, what we did was Lindsay and Charles Becknell got together and wrote a letter to the developer saying he will not receive any occupancy certificates until it's installed. And Lindsay feels that is the best way for us to keep the reins on any development going in that subdivision, since I can't hold the road. So we do recommend acceptance of the roads based on the legal opinions that Lindsay's given us.
Make that motion.
Motion by
Second.
Councilman Todd Lambert.
Second.
Second by Councilman Oliver Joseph.
Motion adjourned.
Any other discussion? None, motion passed. Motion by Councilman Todd Lambert to
Second.
adjourn. Second by Councilman Randy Cluett. We adjourn.